I'm back, your host here at the Soul Talks Club, Ansu, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm a personal development coach. And this isn't just another podcast. This is a space where faith meets healing. This is where we reclaim our softness and where we talk about the real stuff: confidence, connection, and becoming whole. This is the place where we stop pretending and we start unpacking to finally get free. Socialites, can I just say I've missed you? Because this isn't just another listen, this is a community, and you're a part of it now. So let's get into it. What have you been up to? Because listen, I've got some things to get off of my chest. I'm back in your ears, and I know it's been 5 years, but it had to be cozy and it had to be honest and it had to feel like home. This is my version of the living room that I grew up in, the one that was always open, had no plans, no pressure, just vibes. You know, I grew up around aunties and uncles, as well as cousins, some of them blood, some of them chosen. And each weekend they would come over and together we argued, laughed, played music, and just did life together. That's exactly the energy that I want the Soul Talks Club to have. It's giving sit down, take your shoes off, and tell me what's been on your heart lately. And what it's also giving is early 2000 afternoon. Think ProSieben, MTV, Wendy Williams, all of that chaotic but comforting energy, just with realer conversations now. So that's what we're bringing back, the art of coexisting. In this space, we can be strong and soft, we can laugh, we can cry, but let's just start. And don't come for me. I know I'm literally the friend who ghosted the group chat and now is like, hey, what's the vibe? But for real, if you've been rocking with the Soul Talks Club since day one, you would know that this podcast started off in my grandma's living room, smack in the middle of the pandemic. And I was out here recording on my iPhone voice memo. Like, it was very messy. But back then, we were all going through it. The pandemic was a real blur, but at the end of it came clarity. And that clarity told me that now it's time. After 8 years in Canada, I packed my bags and I closed that chapter, not just on a country, but on a whole era, which meant that I was newly single again at the end of my 20s when I thought I was done. Turns out that wasn't the final picture. And it also meant that I had to reposition myself in every way: identity, career, purpose, and find out who I was outside of what I had built. So, from that place, a place where after almost losing myself, I needed to learn who I used to be before. And that's where coaching found me. And now I coach women to build confidence and to lead from a place of self-worth, whether that's in their workplace, in their household, or whatever their field of influence is. But first, I had to become my own first client. Also, shout out to Seven Studios and Köln-Diebrück, because this podcast literally would not exist without them. They created the space and the vibe and the production quality that makes this what it is. So if you're in the area and you want to record your own podcast or music video and do a content shoot, hit them up and use the code TSC5 to get 5% off of your first booking. So yeah, that's where I've been. And enough about me. Let's talk about you now. Let's talk about that voice in your head. You know, the one that whispers, who do you think you are? Let's get into it. When did you start trusting your fear more than your own voice? Let me break it down. First, what does your inner critic even sound like? It sounds like, are you sure you're ready? What if they laugh? You know what? Someone else did it better than you. It sounds like logic, but really it's fear hiding in disguise. So now, where does that voice come from? And let's be real. This voice often comes from all the way up in our childhood. It comes from pressure, from perfectionism, and from having to grow up way too fast. Maybe you were always the responsible one. Or maybe you were raised by parents who didn't let you fail. Maybe you're a first-gen girly just like me, and you're carrying the pressure that no one even sees. I have a psych fact for you. When you self criticize, your brain activates the threat defense system, which means that your body literally thinks you're in danger. And that's how real this is. So, how do we shut it up? How do we break the loop? Here's a 3-step reframe. Number one, catch it. Whose voice is this? Number two, call it out. Is this serving me or is this sabotaging me? And number three, replace it with truth. Because you don't need to be fearless. What you need to learn is to move with fear. You keep saying, I don't know, but babe, I know that you do. You're just scared of what happens once you act on it. Know that your inner critic is your biggest op and you need to stop giving her the mic. Let me tell you a story of how my inner critic shows up. So, you might or might not know I'm a singer. And generally speaking, this is not something that I feel super self critical about. I know that there's things that I could work on and can work on and want to work on in terms of um, technicalities, like vocal technicalities and so on. But let's say when it comes to secular music, yeah, singing is not something that is really something that I would feel self conscious about. It's just too much of who I am and have been trained in for most of my life. But let me tell you one thing when it comes to worship leading, this is a whole other ballgame. I've been a worship leader for 8 years now. And up to this day, so this is something that I'm actively struggling with as we speak, my inner critic, that voice in my head, can take me out. Think minutes before you have to go on stage and have to lead people, a congregation in worship, it would go as bad as panic attacks, literally, as I'm leading worship. So the voice that I have in my head then will tell me, you're not worthy. Who do you even think you are? Why are you showing up? Why do you think you're doing this? Why you? And it's interesting because in the moment, I know that this isn't me, but still, it has the power to take me out. So, yeah, I know that voice personally. And if you're hearing it too, just know it's not the truth. It's just been rehearsed so many times that it eventually started to feel real. But we're not letting it lead anymore. Not today, not this season, and not in any era of your life. Okay, it's time for my favorite part called Straight from the DM. This one's from Layla, and she writes, Ansu, I always second guess myself, even when I'm doing well. Like, I'll make a decision and then spiral afterwards. I don't trust myself at all. How do I stop doing that? First of all, Layla, I see you. Second guessing is not a personality trait, but it's a defense mechanism that can be unlearned. So, next time you're spiraling, ask yourself, what decision did I make from a place of love? And what would that look like if I learned to trust that version of me again? Because self trust isn't about being perfect, but it's about moving with peace, even when you don't have proof yet. Like, I know that this podcast touches up on mindset shifts and confidence tools. And yes, I am a personal development coach. But what you also need to know that my truth doesn't come from self-help alone. Everything I teach and everything I stand on is rooted on Christian faith and Christian beliefs. So, before we close out today, I want to share a verse with you that helped me silence my inner critic more than any affirmation ever could. Because scripture doesn't just hype you up, it grounds you in who you already are. So, as we come to a close, I want to leave you with a verse because there's power in learning scripture by heart. When your inner critic is too loud, let the word be louder. So today I will read for you from 2 Timothy verse 1 to 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound judgment. This verse isn't just for Sundays. It's for every time you go mute when you know you have something to say. Share this episode with someone who's overthinking their entire life right now, because next week we're talking friendships. the strong identity friend, the burnout that comes with not setting boundaries. It's been real. And if you're new here, welcome to the Club Socialite. See you next week.